Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Eureka. It means I found it. It's Greek. And was coined, I think, or the way that we think about Eureka, as in having a moment of realization and finding something, came from the great philosopher Archimedes. And he was in a bath, and he dropped the soap in. And a lot of people think that he said Eureka because I found the soap. I found it. But that's not it. When the soap went in the water, he noticed that the water level went up very slightly. And that led him to the whole philosophy and formula of water displacement, which is very important. Because if you drop something in water and it moves it up, and then that leads you to hydraulics. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Anyway, Eureka, I found it. Basically, in this case, for today's show, that means a CD that was made for me in 2003. I'll explain the provenance as we go and the circumstances of finding it. But let's start with the first track on that CD, which is My Private Nation by Train.
You must have fell out of your bunk and smacked your head.
So that's Train, and that's music from the early part of the century, which the discovery of this CD, which had been missing for many, many years, and was in a box wedged in between Outer Gateways by Kenneth Grant, and The Urban Survival Handbook, which is, my two leading lights in the world of written text. It was there. It was between the two, and it had been lost. It represents interesting music, I think, from that period of the beginning of the 21st century. At that time, I was working as a music supervisor, which is a professional job where you work with producers, directors, and film editors on television or TV shows, and you help them select the kind of tracks that they would like for their film stroke TV program, and make sure that they can afford it, because most of the people that I ever worked with just completely nuts and thought they could spend a fortune on music and would have ended up costing them more than the show itself. But I was paid to do that, and but I had favourites. And the other thing about being a music supervisor is, I used to get about 100 CDs a week, 100. Some of them as compilations, with whole loads of things on, and you have to sit and listen to everything. Of course, in real time, you don't. You listen to the first 30, 40 seconds. I developed a nose and an instinct for a track that would have possibilities for film, and in the first 20, 30 seconds. If that's good, you listen to the rest of it. If not, it's off. All of the songs on this particular Eureka CD were on. Here's Zooton Fever by the Zootons.
I've always been true to you, my friend. Hope that you can help me out again. I get a funny feeling like an epidemic running through my head. No, I got that feeling, it's the best. Got the two-time fever in my head.
Zooton Fever by the Zootons. You may have heard the name or never heard them. They were one of the bands that, in that period, for various reasons, as I will describe as we go along, fell between the cracks. Didn't quite happen for the Zootons, even though they were tremendous. There's a happy ending. They wrote the song Valerie, which is now an absolute classic. Amy Winehouse's song, Anywhere I Ever Go, when people put that song on, people go absolutely crazy. And the songwriters will have made a ton of money, and that is the Zootons. The story goes, Amy walked in with it. Because their version, I've heard their version of Valerie, it's very, very different. It isn't the same kind of bright, snappy, soulful, upbeat thing that Amy did. But she heard it. She heard what was in it, and she went, yeah, I'll take that. She took that into Mark Ronson and said, I want to do this. It's a beautiful record. Excuse me. Happy ending for the Zootons. Crystal Method. Let's go. I love that track. I don't know why, it just seems to me it's a perfect mix of that moment when electronic music, programmed music, obviously the drums and the whole keyboards are programmed, and then on top of that are actual performances of guitar and vocals. And the two things really, really come together. I'm never quite able to understand what the lyrics are about. I think he says lamps come and glow and suns come and go, but it's all just a little too slow. And the fact that they're called Crystal Method would lead you to believe that the song is actually about crystal methadone. I don't know if there was a happy ending for Crystal Method, but I bloody hope so, because that's that's a smashing track, and it was a delight to hear it again, actually. This one I love as well. This is another real favourite of mine. I think the Von Bondis did reasonably well, but they also came in that crack in space when the whole record business was collapsing, really, and nobody knew what was going on, and new rules were being established, and trying to break yourself as an act in the early part of the 21st century must have been enormously difficult. At least now you have some idea of the problems, but then not. Anyway, I think the Von Bondis are still going, and this record is so lurid and in your face, and I don't care. It's Bin Swank. Bin Swank and loving it. What a fantastic feeling. That's just one hot track. I would like to cover that song, and maybe if I grow up one day and I'm grown up, I'll be able to cover that song and sing it with the kind of spurious authority that the singer brings to it. Let's get moody. Here's Refugee by Oi Vavoy. And I think, played this on the King Mob show before. I think we had to download it from somewhere else. But anyway, here it is. Refugee by Oi Vavoy.
You ask me why it is I come to you when someone else is just as good. I asked them, but they said the same. Didn't even ask my name. Explain to me just what it is you stand to lose. Spend a minute in my shoes. Don't you feel like you paid your dues already? show you that all our fates are so entwined. Don't lose your faith in humankind. Just don't forget my state of mind is fragile. Together we could enjoy the taste of dignity. As long as you believe in me, I'll show you my reality. I've seen a few.
Well, that's a song that's still pertinent. I'll say that. I don't know much about Oi Vai Voi. But that would have been... I did actually recommend that song for 2 or 3 movies. In the way that, you know, a movie wouldn't have to be about refugees, because in a sense, we're all refugees from something. So, and that song has that feel about it, you know. I don't think anybody used it, but it's a shame. If I had my way, when you are a music supervisor, you don't get your way. The way it works, it really is a collaboration. They can only afford a certain amount, so you have to balance. Let's say they're going to use 6 or 7 tracks, and they've got X amount of money. You've got to make sure they can afford all of those. So some of those tracks will be more expensive, some will be cheaper. You try and make sure that you spend your money, the big money, on the tracks where it will have the most impact in a film. In other words, you don't pick a David Bowie track to be on headphones in the background. Although that did happen, and I will tell you the story now, because, well, you're not going to tell anybody. My music editor around this time, turn of the century, was a guy called Dominic Gibbs. And Dominic was the funniest bugger ever. And just had this sort of, it's all just stuff attitude about music. But also I must say that the guy did have really, really good taste as well. He turned me on to Daft Punk and all sorts of things. And Dominic we used to work together very, very well, and we used to make each other laugh. And he got very, very successful. I got him a sound designer credit on a couple of movies we worked on, and then he built that into a career. And I think still today does sound for computer games and stuff like that. But he worked on the film The Saint, which you might remember, starring Val Kilmer, a remake of the character from the TV series, which apparently was absolutely rubbish. I never saw the movie, but it cost a ton of money and had a big director, and everybody was very excited. And apparently the producers waltzed in at some point and said, "We have a David Bowie song for the soundtrack." Right? and then left the building, very excited and very pleased with themselves. The director, apparently, whose name shall be Philip Noyce, but I won't say it, said, "I can't stand David Bowie," handed it to Dominic and said, "Bury this sucker." So Dominic looked for the weakest point in the film where you would not hear the music, and he found that, I think Val Kilmer as the Saint was on an aeroplane and listening to music on headphones, which was very, very quiet because you had the plane noise and then the stewardess coming up to him. And Dominic just slipped the Bowie track in there so that you could just basically hear that little ticking noise that you do from someone else's headphones. And hence, the David Bowie song was included in the soundtrack, but not in any meaningful way. So a complete and utter waste of money. The amusing end to that story is Dominic and I were in LA just after the film came out, and we swanned up to Tower Records, which was then a big deal, selling hundreds of thousands of CDs. And there was a huge, I mean, we're talking massive billboard outside, and it said, "Soundtrack for the Saint," and it had a big picture of David Bowie on it as a cell, which just goes to show you how weird show business is. Here's Dirty Vegas with Days Go By.
Leave me when I'm at my worst, feeling as if I've been cursed, bitter cold within. Days go by and still I think of you. Days when I couldn't live my life without you. Days go by and still I think of you. Days when I couldn't live my life without you. Without you. Without you.
Well, that is a smasher. And that kind of has lingered. That's Dirty Vegas, and you still hear that from time to time. That's a kind of semi-classic, and it has the most... If you get the chance, check the official video for Days Go By, Dirty Vegas, because it's one of the few videos I really, really admire. Thea Gilmore was a touted name around the... I don't think she's a relation to Dave Gilmore. Thea Gilmore was touted around this time, around the beginning of the 21st century. She was young, attractive singer-songwriter, and really, really good. Didn't happen, but here's Pirate Moon, and this is a corker.
Stars will die before they can reach your eyes.
That's evocative, that is, and it's got that nice touch of the gramophone needle thing sampled in there. I like that very much. I did like the Libertines, and they were 21st century, touted to be a big band, and almost were. I didn't know anything about Pete Doherty at this point, or any, I knew nothing except this track, Vertigo by the Libertines, came through my system of first 20, 30 seconds, and I thought, yeah, this is a corker, and still is.
Just what it is she does, but it can't be hard for her to get a buzz. Down in the street below, you hear the drunken archangel sing. I know what's on your mind, my boy, 'cause I can see everything. Red pipes, your fortune's made. Well, take a tip from me. Climb up to her window ledge, or you'll forever be just walking on the ladders as the people around you hear you cry, please. As the people around you hear you cry, please.
There you go, the Libertines with Pete Doherty. And this next one was just a shoo-in. I was a sucker for this because it's called Blue Song by Mint Royale, but it actually samples Captain Beefheart. And as soon as I heard Captain Beefheart swinging, I thought, yeah. It's called, the original was called, I think, like Acid, which was a way of saying acid. And if you don't know who Captain Beefheart is, boy, you should.
Right in my head, I ain't got
So there you go. That's Mint Royale, and they were really one of the best of that sample it up crowd. I mean, I've been able to access that track anyway, actually, because I have the album. And another track which we played a lot of times on the King Mob show is I Am the Sexiest Man in Jamaica. Very bad accent there. Where they sample Prince Buster, and I love that too. Mint Royale, 21st century, early 21st century classic, in my opinion. I also liked The Kills, which is a female-male duo. Not The Killers or this or that, The Kills. And I love this song. It's called Kissy Kissy.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, well, as the maestro Chris Spedding always says, you can go a long way on one chord if you know what you're doing. And I think the Kills do. That's really dirty, sleazy piece of nonsense, that. That's like bathing in grease. That's just wonderful. Kissy Kissy by the Kills. I think they're still going, but again, fell between the cracks of a record business that was collapsing, social media intruding, stuff being sampled, record company people and management people at a high level in the music industry were just in complete and utter denial. They'd been making so much money for doing so little for so long that when they all ran away from them, they just couldn't handle it. And it's a paradigm, I hate to use that word, for much of modern business. The king can you approach. A change is coming, and I'm doing really well, and it can't ever end. Well, it just does. If you owned a high street store 20 years ago, it was a license to print money. If a business came in and paid you extortionate rates and rent and failed, hey-ho, there were 20 others to come in. Now, if you own that same piece of retail on the high street and the business fails, you could be empty for 4 months. Nothing lasts. Except great music. Here's Cheapster by Spiritualized. Yes, bum-kicking music, as they call it, or ass-kicking music. Anyway, coming to the end of this Eureka moment, and listening to this stuff again, it's been great. I liked all of my choices that I made 18 or so years ago. I'm very happy about them. Boy, I must have been in good order at that time. I'm going to finish with two kind of successes that came out of that time. Neither of them came to the traditional route that was there, to record company promotion, tour support, launch act. Neither of these acts were launched. First of all, I'm going to play you Bath Time in Clerkenwell by The Real Tuesday Weld, and I was sent this, and I thought this was just fabulously funny piece of music, and I liked it very much. I did recommend it for various things, and it did get used. It was on a TV commercial for something called X. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So this, and that launched that guy, the Clerkenwell Kid, who never has sold records in tremendous amounts, even though, as regular listener will know, I love the real Tuesday Weld, but has led to many placements. His music's been used in adverts and films, and he's made a ton of money out of it, and he's worth every penny. Here's Bath Time in Clerkenwell. Interesting, isn't it? I started with that bath metaphor with the water displacement Archimedes nonsense, and then almost finished with bath time in Clerkenwell, almost like I'd really thought it through. Except I didn't, just winged the whole thing. Sometimes things just work out. You can put a lot of planning into life, and you can organize. Some of the most organized people I've ever known, their life just turns to crap. And some of the most disorganized people I've ever known are just enormously, enormously successful. What does that say about life? Let's think about that for a moment. Can we all have I just want a quiet moment where we just think about what does that mean. All right, well, that was it. Let's get on now. I'm going to finish with Manu Chao, who is a really big, successful artist, even if you haven't heard of him. He's all over the world. He's big in South America. He's big in Africa. He's big Europe, especially like Spain, Italy, the Mediterranean, Greece, the Mediterranean countries. They love Manu. And I was lucky enough to kind of see Manu Chao. I don't know that I actually saw him. He was playing a concert in Central Park, New York. And we heard the music. And my daughter, she said, "That's Manu Chao." And I said, "No, it can't be." And, it was. And we snuck up by the side of the gate and looked through and actually saw Manu doing his thing. And but he didn't get successful with record company support or anything. He was just really, really good and did loads of shows and made some very funny videos. And I'm going to finish with I love this song. It makes me so happy. I hope it makes you happy. I hope this show's made you happy. I hope your life is happy and everything's happy. Bongo Bong by Manu Chao.
Was queen of the mambo, Papa was king of the Congo. Deep down in the jungle, I start banging my first bongo. Every monkey like to be in my place instead of me, 'cause I'm the king of bongo, baby, I'm the king of bongo bong. I went to the big town where there is a lot of sound, from the jungle to the city looking for a bigger crown. So I play my boogie for the people of big city, but they don't go crazy when I'm banging on my boogie. I'm the king of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come, baby. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Nobody like to be in my place instead of me, 'cause nobody go crazy when I'm banging on my boogie. I'm a king without a crown, hanging loose in a big town, but I'm a king of bongo, baby. I'm the king of bongo bong. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come, baby. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come. They say that I'm a clown, making too much dirty sound. They say there is no place for little monkey in this town. Nobody like to be in my place instead of me, 'cause nobody go crazy when I'm banging on my boogie. I'm the king of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come, baby. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come. Banging on my bongo, all that swing belongs to me. I'm so happy there's nobody in my place instead of me. I'm a king without a crown, hanging loose in a big town. I'm the king of bongo, baby. I'm the king of bongo bong. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come, baby. King of the bongo, king of the bongo bong. Hear me when I come. Mama was queen of the mambo, Papa was king of the Congo. Deep down in the jungle, I start banging my first bongo. Every monkey like to be in my place instead of me, 'cause I'm the king of bongo, baby. I'm the king of bongo bong. Hear me when I come. Hear me when I come, baby. Hear me when I come. Parfois j'aimerais mourir tellement j'ai voulu croire. Parfois j'aimerais mourir pour ne plus rien avoir. Parfois j'aimerais mourir pour plus jamais te voir. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus tous les jours. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus tous les jours. Parfois j'aimerais mourir tellement y a plus d'espoir. Parfois j'aimerais mourir pour plus jamais te revoir. Parfois j'aimerais mourir pour ne plus rien savoir. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus tous les jours. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus tous les jours. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus tous les jours. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour. Je ne t'aime plus, mon amour.
broadcasting for a worldwide audience.